Diama to make the start at cornerback. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he holds up against a better quarterback like Aaron Rodgers.
Um, so um, so how many yards do you think Jimmy G is gonna throw for?
I would put Jimmy Garoppolo at around 250 yards on Sunday.
I really like Jimmy Garoppolo. But the only problem that sometimes he gets pressured. Do you agree with that? That sometimes Jimmy Garoppolo gets pressured a lot in cases when he kind of gets nervous a little bit and he throws the ball a little off.
I do. There's definitely that is definitely part of his game that can be frustrating at times.
Um, so like which when do you think Trey Lance is gonna get his start? Like when do you think he's gonna get like they haven't been starting him for a while. When do you think he's gonna get his official start? Because they've been putting him in and out, switching Jimmy G with Trey Lance. So they've been playing Jimmy Garoppolo sometimes in the game. Then they put Trey Lance into the game for having played play about 30, 40 plays. Then put him back in the game. So
Yeah, I wouldn't expect to see Trey Lance making a start until the 49ers either go on a little bit of a losing streak, Garoppolo gets hurt. I don't really see them making a change until that point. Really, until maybe their hand is forced a little bit on it. I don't see him getting the start before
so
that
for
because once you
Trey
make that
Lance,
move, you can't move back.
do you think that his NFL career is way more impressive, or do you think his college career was way more better?
Who's that? Trey Lance?
Yeah.
Well, we haven't gotten to see him. We haven't been able to see him yet in the NFL, so I'm not worried about that. I think he's going to be fine in the NFL. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. It's just a matter of him getting used to the speed of the game, getting his feet, underneath him, and getting used to being out there at this level. And I think that give him a little bit of time, and he's going to be able to get to the consistency that's needed to be a top level NFL quarterback.
So you think was his college career pretty impressive also at North
It was
Dakota
very
State?
impressive. Yeah, it was very impressive. He was really good. Um, in college. Definitely, that's part of why he was the second, the third pick in the draft. There's just a lot of good things on his film. It's just that he just needs to get used to the speed of the game. Like I said, he needs to get used to having to deliver the ball with maybe a little bit more anticipation and those types of things than he was doing in college. Those
I
holes
know
open
many.
close a lot
I
quicker.
know. I know many people in the NFL draft were really hoping to get Mac Jones at number three, and when they got Trey Lance, would you see that there was a little bit of a shock to that because everybody thought that Mac Jones would go number three, but then he went way back in the draft and the I don't know, the Patriots got him,
Hmm.
so they went way down. So was that kind of a shock to many Niner fans that thought that they would select Mac Jones at number three, but then Trey Lance got selected, so that was kind of something that kept them off guard
There
in the
was
draft.
definitely a lot of discussion on whether or not who was going to be going to that pick. So, there was a lot of folks who were saying that it was going to be Mac Jones at number three. Uh, and I would have been fine with that if they had taken him there. I think he's a really good quarterback and NFL ready. He doesn't have the speed of a guy like Trey Lance, but he's a little bit more polished from the pocket at this point in time.
So my other question is that when the Carolina Panthers decided to when the Patriots cut Cam Newton, was that a little bit of a shock when they decided to cut Cam Newton, realizing that they should cut him and bring in Mac Jones and have him be the starting QB?
Oh yeah, I think that was definitely a little bit of a surprise there. I don't think that there was, even though there was a lot of people who thought Jones was ready to start early in his career, I don't think there was very many people that thought he'd go in there and uh, beat out Cam Newton day one like he did.
I think Cam Newton was a really good quarterback that the New England Patriots got. You know, but it was definitely a shock to find out that when they traded him, or did they trade Cam Newton, or what did they do with Cam Newton?
They just released him.
Oh, um, so when looking at the 49ers schedule, Are you which games are you most excited to see?
I'm really looking forward to this 3 game stretch that the 49ers are starting now. This Green Bay game, they finally go against the top level quarterback. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how that the defense reacts to that. And then they have the Seahawks next week, which is a division opponent. Those games are always tough. And then they have Arizona the week after that, which leads into the bye.
My other question is that what are the ways that the 49ers can stop Aaron Rodgers?
They just need to get after him and get. They need to get hits on him. The more you hit Rodgers, the worse he is typically. So they just need to. They need for Nick Bosa and D Ford and that defensive line to really have a big day.
How many sacks do you think? How many times will the 49ers sack Aaron Rodgers?
I'm going to say 4 would be my guess.
Um, uh, so, uh, so Barry a Baller 18 has a question for you, saying like, if you gave Jimmy a letter grade versus the Eagles, what would it be?
I would give him probably give him a C plus.
Um,
He's at pretty average, but you give him the plus because of the drive before the halftime.
so, if you would like to, if which rookies would you like to see in Sunday night the game on Sunday night against the Green Bay Packers?
Which rookies would I like to see?
Yes.
I want to see Diamador Lenore. I want to see how he holds up in coverage against a receiver like Devontae Adams and with a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball at him.
What are your thoughts of the 49ers signing Dre Kirkpatrick and Jock Patrick? So they signed Dre Kirkpatrick from the Arizona Cardinals, and
Hmm.
then they signed Jock Patrick from the Bengals practice squad. How do you think those two players that the 49ers just signed? How do you think that's going to add to the depth of the team right now?
It's good depth. It's really good. I think that last year there were some holes on the roster that got exploited early in the season, like the Miami game, for example. This year, the team is much deeper. That's, I think, partly why we're not seeing the rookies playing as much or starting. Uh, is they're extremely deep. That there weren't any holes already to necessarily have to plug and play a rookie. So I think that's kind of why we're seeing the play out the way we are with them.
Do you agree that the more 49ers players we can get on the roster, the better it is?
The more, what's that again?
So the more players we can get on the roster, the more players we can sign on the to get them on the roster, the better it's gonna be for us.
Yeah, well, but the more experienced players that you can get, the better. Like last year they got stuck with Brian Allen in that Miami game. Poor guy. But this year the 49ers have kind of gone out of their way to make sure that they don't put themselves in a situation like that. Really, at any position. In a lot of ways, they've kind of almost overpaid at every spot on the roster to have 2 really good players.
So my other question is that what are your thoughts of Daniel Brunskill?
Uh, he's okay. He's struggling. He's, I think, the right side of the offensive line in general is the weaker side, and Brunskill in particular struggles against good pass rushers. Most linemen do, but he really struggles against them. He's done it all throughout training camp, and he's kind of the weak link, I think, on the offensive line.
For the San Francisco 49ers, what's better? What's better, their O line or their D line?
The 49ers defensive line is more well rounded.
Oh, um, how do you like? What are your why do you say that their D line is better than their O line?
I just think they have they have their defensive ends are 2 of the better defensive ends in the league. They're okay in the middle, maybe not quite as strong as you'd want them to be there. Javon Kinlaw's knee, I think, is hurting him, and I don't think he's nearly the pass rush presence that you'd want to have there. Uh, and quite frankly, I think maybe it's because of his knee. He's getting pushed around more than people think. He definitely did on Sunday.
Would you say that Daniel Brunskill is kind of vulnerable? Because I know some players they normally tend to be a little more vulnerable to get sacked by other players because they're a little bit weaker and more vulnerable. Do you think Brunsko? You would say that he's very vulnerable because he's the weak link,
I
as
do.
Barry Baller 18 is just saying that he's saying that Brunsko's the weak link, but he's not terrible.
Yeah, no, and I would agree with that. He is the weak link. He's not terrible. There's plenty of linemen across the league that are worse than he is. But when it comes to this particular team and what the Friars are trying to do, he's the one. That's the one spot that they need to improve on. And so hopefully Aaron Banks will be able to, you know, continue to learn how to play right guard after playing left guard for so long, and get the feel for that spot so he can take over next year.
Do you think it was a little bit of a shock that Kyle Juszczyk wasn't selected as a captain for the 49ers?
I would say it's a little bit of a shock. I think the guy's a heck of a player, and you would think that the guys on the team would have thought of him as one of their leaders.
Um, Another question for you is that if there was a sports drink sponsored by Kyle Juszczyk, what would it be?
Uh, Shoot, that's a tough one right there because it's got to have juice in the name, right?
Yeah, it gotta have juice in the name. If it doesn't have juice in the name, then it really doesn't have the pop.
Smart juice.
Cause juice check, um,
I don't know. What do you got? What do you think?
sm- smart juice,
That's what I said. So what do you have? What's yours?
fancy juice.
Oh, there you there you go. There you go.
Yeah. Um. So
Tough
um,
juice.
how many yards if Aaron Rodgers potentially throws? How many yards? How many yards will Aaron Rodgers throw for in the game on Sunday night against Green Bay?
I'd put him around somewhere between 230 and 260, maybe 270, like in that range. That 230 to 270. That way, if his 250, I'm in the middle. But I don't think he's going to over 300. I think the Packers are going to run the ball or try to run the ball a little bit more than people think, and so that's going to keep his numbers down. But he might have a few touchdowns.
So for Aaron Rodgers, can he get nervous too, in the pocket?
Yeah, you start hitting them, and I don't know if I'd say nervous, but if you start hitting them and the Packers fall behind by 14 points or something like that, has a tendency to kind of go into a shell. At least that's what we saw of him in 2019 out here at Levi's when they played on that Sunday night game last 2019 back
So
then.
how electric do you think the environment will be? Um, just the fans are really gonna get into it because it's our home opener. So how do you think it's gonna be pretty boisterous?
Oh, definitely. I think it's going to be a crazy crowd. They haven't had a home game that meant anything with fans since the championship game, NFC championship game in January of 2022. They're ready. I think the 49ers fans are ready to go and show. They're going to show up to Levi Stadium and get that place rocking like it hasn't rocked, maybe even at all before.
I'm also really excited for that game on Sunday night because do you think it's gonna be a rematch of the NFC Championship game? So it's gonna feel like you're at a playoff game, kind of have that playoff like atmosphere on Sunday night.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to have a big time atmosphere with Sunday night football. Two of the older, more established franchises in the NFL going at it. There's certain games when you turn on the TV and you just see the helmets running around on the field that you get excited, and I think that's one of these. That's this week. I think when you look at the 49ers and Packers, you see those helmets on the field at the same time. That means it's a big game.
Like when you watch 49 football games, do the refs make mistakes sometimes? Because sometimes the ref makes a bad call and that really affects the turnout of the game.
Yeah, I would say so. They definitely do. Everybody makes mistakes. Every once in a while. I don't make many, but no, I'm kidding with that. But yeah, no, everybody makes mistakes, and there's definitely mistakes by the referees at times.
And what are like if you want the like I really do you think the 49ers are going to go 8-0, and how would they make that happen if they would want to potentially go 8-0, like go undefeated during the season?
They just need to play good defense and stick to what they do best on offense, and that's run the ball and play action and get guys like Debo Samuel involved early and often, and same thing with George Kittle. As long as they've got those two guys on the field at the same time with Garoppolo, I think the Flyers offense has a chance.
Does Aaron Rodgers dink and dunk a lot?
He'll take short stuff, but he also has the he likes you'll see him really get down the field quite a bit.
Um, I think it's gonna be a fun game on Sunday night. I think both teams are gonna bring out the energy. Do you think that um, they're gonna try their best? The Packers and the 49ers are gonna try their best to bring the energy out to the arena to kind of rock the uh, make it rock.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think so. It's going to be really fun with those guys.
To me, when the atmosphere in Levi Stadium, to me it's kind of gonna remind me of Oracle.
Yeah,
When Oracle Arena was all roaring and there was pandemonium everywhere, and it was just it was just it was just really crazy that there was so much like pandemonium going on. Do you think that Levi Stadium is gonna be like Oracle Arena when they were in the playoffs and they were, there was so much happiness going on around in the air?
yeah, that would be fantastic to see that. That would be amazing.
But do you think it's like Oracle? Like how when the 49ers come into Levi Stadium on Sunday?
Well, we haven't seen it be that way yet, so I think that it has a good chance to be somewhat close to that.
Um, but um, but it's I like the players, but I like the cheerleaders. They also make it fun, at the halftime when the cheerleaders come out for the Niner cheerleaders. They
Yeah,
also
you'll
make the game fun. They make it fun too, right? When at halftime, like
yeah, definitely.
At the Warriors games and the Niner games.
Oh, for sure. How can you not like Sourdough Sam too?
Yeah. Um. Uh. But Barry Ball 18 saying who is going to get carries behind Trey Sermon.
Well, the 49ers have two other running backs that are currently on their active roster that are healthy. So Trenton Cannon and Jaquez Patrick are the two others that are on their active roster that are healthy. So you got to expect that probably Patrick's going to get a carry or two. Uh, Also, they might bring up one of either Kerryon Johnson or Chris Thompson off their practice squad. I would guess if they're going to do that, that would be Chris Thompson. Uh, so that's because he has some experience having played under Shanahan. He was drafted by Shanahan back in 2013 with Washington. So and he, Shanahan hasn't rolled out Elijah Mitchell yet. He's doubtful, so it's unlikely that he's going to play. Usually, when a guy gets listed as doubtful on Friday, he's not going to get into the game. But if he's feeling okay, maybe he sneaks in there and gets a couple carries on Sunday night. But I would expect the load of that going to go through Sermon, and then probably the big guy Patrick would be second, and then maybe a running back if they bring him off, whether they might bring off the practice squad. And with Sermon playing, you might see a little bit more of Trey Lance as well.
Okay, so we have a question from Notorious GAV. He says, Jack, what's your thoughts of playing Juice on special teams?
I think he might be on some special teams already. I'm not sure, but get Juszczyk on the field, let him earn his money.
Um,
I
uh,
think what the question should be what about getting him the ball more? And he definitely needs to be given the ball more. That's for sure.
Amin says, Jack, Brady or Brady, who is the GOAT?
Joe Montana.
So my other question is that what are your thoughts of Robbie Gould, the kicker for the 49ers?
He's really good, right? Inside if it's a 48-yard field goal or less, he's really good. Once you get past that, he struggles. So that puts a little bit more pressure on your offense as far as having how far you need to get down so that you can get into field goal range. But inside of 48, I think he's pretty darn good.
So it looks like Jamal Armstrong agrees with you, Joe Montana.
Well, it's because Jamal probably isn't. He might be old enough to actually remember what great quarterbacks look like.
Um, so uh, so what's your score prediction for the game on Sunday night?
I think the 49ers are going to win this one 30-24. That would be my guess. How about you,
But
Chardal?
uh, 28-25,
Who?
49ers.
Okay, that sounds like a good one.
Yeah.
hmm
Um, so how many touchdowns do you think the 49ers are going to score in the first quarter?
How many touchdowns are they going to score in the in
In
the
the
first
first
quarter?
in the first quarter?
One.
How many so we have another question from Notorious GB. He says, "Are we going to see good Jimmy or bad Jimmy against the Green Bay Packers?"
I think we're going to be seeing more. I'd say I'd lean towards more of a good Jimmy against the Packers. The Packers don't really, the Packers are going to be missing one of their better pass rushers, uh, and I think that's going to help him out. He's not going to have quite the pressure that he had around him on Sunday in Philadelphia. Plus, it's the home crowd, and that kind of helps you settle down a little bit too. Even if you might be excited, it's not going to be quite as much of that nervousness because when the offense is on the field, it's not going to be that loud. You like it, that loud noise like it is when you're on the road. So I'm going to say probably a little bit more of a good Jimmy this week against the Packers.
I'm actually happy that I went live right now cuz Gavin was going to join the show, but he got home late. So he wasn't able to join us in the show. So but he's in the comments section, so at least we see Gavin in the comments section, So we have a question from Persist Bro. It says, "Are we gonna see more passing plays this game since most of the 49ers running back room is depleted?"
I think you're going to see it maybe a little bit more early on. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. I would say, I think it's going to be something like, let's just say they run 60 offensive plays. You're probably looking at 35 pass, 25 run, somewhere in that area. Like I said earlier, I would expect this to be a game where with Trey Sermon likely getting the start, you're probably going to see some of Trey Lance, maybe a little bit more in this game. Plus, it's at home. You don't have quite as much of that, nervous energy or whatever you call it that was going on in Philadelphia where you didn't want to bring him into that game.
So we have a question from Jamal Armstrong. It says, "Can you talk about the trenches? What do you expect from the 49ers on both sides? Packers don't have Smith and maybe one of Elton Jenkins and Buckner already out."
Yeah, and so that's exactly right. And that all favors the 49ers. The 49ers should be able to, again, with Smith out on the defensive side, that takes away their best pass rusher. That should allow Garoppolo to have a little bit more time to hit the back of his drop, look around, and hopefully throw it to the right guy or throw it more accurately. I know on Wednesday when I was at practice, he definitely looked pretty sharp throwing the ball around. And then on the for the 49ers defense with Jenkins, if Jenkins doesn't go, Bakhtiari we know for sure is out. But if Jenkins doesn't go, then Nick Bosa and D Ford need to be able to have a field day off of the edge there to get to Rodgers.
So you have another question from Notorious GAV. He says, "Is George Kittle going to continue disappointing fantasy football players worldwide?"
No, I expect him to get a touchdown and some big yardage this week.
So you have another question from Notorious GAV. He says, "Is Mike McGlinchey in contention for most improved player of the season?"
Mike, I like this one. Mike McWall, 2021. He's definitely going to be in that discussion of improved players. He's still struggling at times, and the incompletion that Garoppolo threw to Brandon Ayuk over the middle, that I think had a lot to do with McGlinchey getting beat and him having to throw the ball a little bit sooner than he wanted instead of being able to allow the receiver to clear the linebacker. He had to get it out of his hands and try to throw it over the top of him, and that made it an extremely tough throw.
So another question from a Persist Bro. He says, "What kind of coverage do you guys see the 49ers using this Sunday to slow down the Green Bay Packers?"
I think it's going to be similar to last week. You're going to see a lot of two deep safeties with the cornerbacks, kind of mixing up between man and zone, but with two, in that two deep shell that we saw them run uh, against Philadelphia. If you remember in week one against Detroit, they ran a lot of single high safety, but they changed that up in week two. And I think that just has to do with the receivers that they're facing and the quarterbacks.
So Jamal Armstrong says Brandon Ayuk semi breakout game.
I think this could be a game where either Ayuk or his the guy that he's splitting time with uh, could have a big play or two.
Um, so we have another question coming in from Notorious GIB. He says, "Can you explain how Mike McGlinchey has been working on his technique in the off season?"
Unfortunately, I haven't. This is my first year covering the team and being there for practice and everything, so I haven't seen what he's done in the past. But you can definitely, definitely tell that he's put on some extra weight, so that's going to help him with his anchoring when he's in pass protection. Uh, and other than that, it's just all about technique. And I think Garoppolo being the quarterback is helping him out probably about as much as anything that McGlinchey's doing because Garoppolo's getting the ball out of his hands so quickly compared to the guys that they had last year.
So you have a question coming from Jamal Armstrong. Says it's only 3 games, but do you think Lenoir draws the assignment of guarding Devontae Adams, or will it be Mosley if he starts?
On this one, it just depends on where Adams lines up. The 49ers don't flip they don't follow receivers. They're with their cornerbacks. They play one side or the other. They're either left or right corner generally. Every once in a while, they'll change that up and flip those guys. But I don't see the 49ers as having a cornerback that's good enough to where you want to do that with, where you want to have Richard Sherman trailing Adams all over the field like he did in 2019 in the championship game. I don't see them doing that this week.
So we have a question from Notorious GB. He says, "Can Deebo Samuel break into the NFL top 100 list next season if he stays healthy this year?"
Yeah, if he stays healthy this year, he'll be on that list, and when it comes out before next year.
So another question from Persist Bro. He says, "What record do you guys predict the 49 will have by the bye week?" I think their record is going to be. I'm not really sure how many games do the 49ers have. They have 5, so I think it's going to be 3-5.
3-2. They have
So,
5. They have 5 games, right? Before the bye
yeah,
week.
yeah.
So they've played 2 of them already. They have 3 more to go. So there's 5 total. You think it's going to be 3? So you think they're going to win 3, lose 2? Did you mute me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're gonna win 3 and lose 2.
Okay. Yeah, and I've got them at 4-1.
So you have a question from Brandon McMahon. He says, "What workout load do you expect from Trey Sermon after he has been cleared from COVID protocol?"
This is a tough one because those head injuries can change things. But Sermon's a guy who he showed through college when he was the workhorse, he could handle it. You don't want him to be doing that on a week in, week out basis. But this week with the situation that they're in, I would say he's probably going to get 15, 20 carries this week. You're muted, Chardol.
So Persist Bro says, "I predict they'll beat the Packers but lose to the Seahawks and Cardinals."
Yeah, mine is. I think that they're going to win these next 2 games. I think they might. I think they lose to Arizona in Arizona.
So we have another question from Notorious GAV. He says, "Could Jimmy Ward and Jaquiski Tartt be in contention for a Pro Bowl this year if they both stay healthy, or will they be overlooked again?"
It depends on what they do stats wise. They were both good enough to probably make it in 2019. Ward was probably good enough to make it again last year, but they just don't put up stats. They don't have a lot of interceptions or fumbles or sacks or those kind of things. That stuff like Jamal Adams, does in Seattle. I think these guys are better safeties than him, but they don't put the numbers up, and so they don't get the recognition.
When looking at all the famous moments from 49 history, what would be your favorite?
Well, the catch obviously is a big one, right? So the catch would be the top one. I think the Jerry Rice touchdown down the left sideline right before halftime against the Cowboys in the '94 championship game. That's another iconic moment for the franchise. The Frank Gore touchdown run to take the lead in the NFC championship game against Atlanta. That one I think is underrated as well.
Do you think it's not bringing back? Do you think the 49ers should bring back Frank Gore, or do you think that's not such a great idea to bring him back? Because he's really old. He's really old.
I think he's a guy who probably could have come in and played for him and done just as good as some of these guys that they've signed off the street, a Carry On Johnson, for example. I think he still has the ability. At least based off of what his statistics were from the last couple of years, he could probably come in to join the 49ers and still run for 3.5, 4 yards a carry behind this offensive line.
My other question is that what are your thoughts of Joe Staley being a reporter for Comcast Sportsnet Bay Area covering the 49ers?
I think it's great. He has a good personality, brings a lot of insight. I think offensive linemen a lot of times are the smartest guys on the team because of all that they have, all that really goes into what they have to do. So when it comes to analyzing the game, offensive linemen are really good at it the majority of the time.
So we have a question from Randy McMahon. He said, during the games previously against the Packers, the Niners exploited the middle of the field. Hasn't done that a ton of that this year. Adjustments from the league.
I don't know about that. The 49ers really attacked the middle of the field in week 1 against Detroit. They did a pretty good job of it last week too, not as often because of the pressure wasn't allowing them the time to get it in there. But if the 49ers have their run game going, that middle of the field really opens up because the linebackers have to honor that even on a play fake.
So we have a question from Persist Bro. He says, when do you guys predict Lance starts, considering how Jimmy has been playing so far?
I don't think there's anything that Garoppolo's done so far that would speed up the process of Lance starting. I think it's really you're not going to see Trey Lance starting in 2021 unless the 49ers begin to lose games, and that's a lot. And that's the result of what Garoppolo's doing. Or Garoppolo gets hurt. When you look at Kyle Shanahan and what he's done with quarterbacks, look how long it took for him to pull out C.J. Beathard. Look how long, he never even, even last year with Nick Mullins, he never pulled him out. And there were times when he was playing really bad. So, he had some bad turnovers and things like that cost them games. He just kept sticking with them. So I wouldn't expect to see him make not an adjustment, but make a change at quarterback unless it was really, this season was almost a goner.
So we have a question from Notorious JB. He says, will Jimmy Garoppolo throw an interception against the Packers?
Well, he's gone two games without it, so the law of averages says he's probably going to throw one this week.
So you have another question from Notorious JB. He says, Jack, what's your thoughts on tightening up on the flaunting rule? Yeah,
the whole taunting thing is, it is what it is. I mean, the rule's there, and really what the ones that, I saw like a thing on Twitter where they were showing some of those that have been called, and really it's about getting up and doing it in the guy's face. If you get up and you celebrate with your teammates, I don't think you're going to get called. But if you get up and you're looking at the guy and you're yelling down at him, like if he's on the ground, or you spike the ball near him, that's always been a penalty. But I think it's more about doing it towards the player that you just beat. Whereas if you turn to your team, you're going to be fine. It is what it is. It's these guys know the rules. They've been told what the rules were, going into the season. And from a fan standpoint, I know it stinks when it happens to your team, but the players need to be smarter and know what the rules are and stick to them.
I know. For the Warriors, I know. There was this instance that happened in the play. They were playing the Toronto Raptors in the finals, and then one of the investors from the Warriors, Mark Stevens, shoved Kyle Lowry, and he got fined $500,000 for that. And he wasn't allowed to come back to watch games he wasn't allowed to come back to watch any more Warrior games. So that was kind of like taunting a player, like shoving him or pushing him aside.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Because like he shoved him and then he got escorted out of the game and he wasn't able to come back to the arena.
Yeah, so, but that's a guy who's not even a player doing that. You really can't be doing that.
So Notorious Gio says, is Brunskill still the weakest link on the O-line? If so, how could he improve his game?
Yeah, he is. I think Brunskill is who he is. He's a decent player. He's a really good. he'd be really good as a rotational piece that you can move all over the place due to injuries, along the front line. But as a starting right guard, I think he's the weakest link there.
So Varuna also says, I don't like the new taunting rules. It's a joke.
Yeah, no, I gave my 2 cents on that one. I don't think it's. I think you can say it's a joke, and that's okay. I just don't. I think what it is with the examples that I've seen, it's just don't do it in the guy's face, and you're going to be okay. And that's really what they need to do there. Just get
Some
up and,
other
and celebrate with your team.
So the other question from Persist Bro, he says, Jack, what are your thoughts of Dimadra? What are your thoughts of Lenoir, and what do you see as his ceiling?
I like Lenore. I think he's a guy who, a fifth round draft pick that stepped in and he plays at a real high level. He got beat last week on that deep ball, but he just keeps coming at it. He's a As far as his ceiling, I'm not really good with the whole ceiling floor kind of arguments. Not that I don't like him, I struggle with those. I think he's a guy that he's only 2 games into his professional career. I think he's going to continue to grow, and he's a guy that can be a long-term starter for the 49ers if he continues on the path that he started. And we'll see a lot more. We're going to get a lot better understanding of him in these next 2 weeks.
So we have another question coming in from Notorious GAB. He says, are we going to see more Talanoa Hufanga, and what are your thoughts of him so far?
I don't think we're going to see him this year unless there's an injury to either Ward or Tart. But he's a guy who I think we're going to see as a starter most likely next year.
What things have you seen in Hufanga that really impressed you?
Oh, he just looks like a smart football player. He looks like he's always around the ball. He makes plays, and when he's on the field, he just looks like he has really good instincts. That he's not the best guy in coverage. He's not the smoothest or any of those kind of things, but he's a guy that just continues to be around the ball and make plays. And so that's what I like about him.
So would you say that Talanoa Hufanga on the 49ers will be like Troy Polamalu 2.0? Basically he looks like Troy Polamalu.
No, I wouldn't say that he's like a Trey Polamalu. He's more of a I don't know how to explain it, but he doesn't strike me as that type of player yet.
The weird thing why I'm comparing him to Polamalu on the Steelers, because I'm trying to say the Head and Shoulders ads with the hair.
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
He has that type of hair, right? Have you seen the ads for Head and Shoulders shampoo ads?
Oh, for sure.
He has that type of hair, so he kind of reminds you of like a that type of player.
Yes.
So we have another question coming in from Notorious GAB. He says, could Alex Mack have the same impact on the team experience wise that Emmanuel Sanders had in 2019?
Yeah, I think we see that. He's helps to solidify the offensive line. And I think he's very similar. I mean, it's a good call. Sanders was a guy and he's still a good pro. Maybe not, that didn't have the speed of a younger player. But he was just a wily veteran type, and that's kind of what Mac is now. He's a smart player. He gets everybody lined up in the right spot. He doesn't have the speed like he used to maybe get up to the second level at times, and we've seen it cost some yardage because he's not able to get to the linebackers like he probably did 5 years ago.
So we have a question from Notorious GB coming. He's saying, is the season over if Alex Mack goes down injured?
I don't think so because they have Daniel Brunskill that can slide over and play center, and he has experience with it. So that's who I believe would step in at center, and then you have the ability to put in a guy like either Aaron Banks at right guard, most likely, maybe Jalen Moore. I think they have the depth to kind of absorb that. It becomes more of a problem if it becomes a back and forth type of a situation.
So we have another question from Persister. He says, this is an early question, but do you guys think that the 49ers will prioritize in the next year's draft?
Offensive line. They're going to go. They're probably going to go offensive line. There's probably going to be a safety that's going to be taken. I would say look for him to grab another linebacker. Another defensive lineman. and a quarterback because I think they're going to need another quarterback here.
So we have another question. We have a question from Maruna coming in. He says, "Do you think Robbie Gould is fading away? Even last week, the field goals and 1 point conversions did not go through the middle."
Yeah, well, yeah, he's definitely showing that he's a little bit older, and that's partly why we're not seeing field goals over 50 yards with him.
So Waruna says, early corner or O line?
Yeah, based off the way the 49ers draft, it would be an offensive lineman in round 2 before they go corner.
So is Kyle Shanahan prioritizing special teams this season after watching them fail for years?
I don't know if I could say that because they haven't. They've been kind of playing musical chairs at punt returner and kick returner that has been. If he was prioritizing special teams more, Elijah Mitchell would be returning the kickoffs or would have been returning the kickoffs instead of Ambry Thomas and Trenton Cannon. So I don't know if he's really prioritizing them any more than he has in the past.
So we have a question from Notorious GB. It says, should we use Josh Hokett on special teams and save juice for the offense?
No, you just don't have enough spots. He'd have to be brought up onto the 53-man roster. So who are you going to take off to bring him up? And then on game day, you can only have 48. So who do you sit? And if he's not going to, the special teams guys have to be able to do more than just play special teams. At least they have to be able to contribute. Usually have to be able to contribute in one other spot. That's why, like with Cannon last week, he takes over for Ambry Thomas, and they were lucky that they did that. I know that they weren't thinking along those lines, but they were lucky that he was the guy that was there because the running backs all got hurt and they needed him for this one play.
So Persist Bro says, I would agree corner, but they drafted an O lineman in the second round this year.
Yeah, no, I understand. But the 49ers tend to build from the inside out and front back. So that's why I say the linemen there. They also, it depends. They need to have a long-term solution at center, and they need to, they may have their solution long-term at guard if Jalen Moore slides down and takes over Lake and Tomlinson's spot.
So do you think, so Notorious GRE says, do you think the 49ers should cut Charlie Warner?
Warner's the only of their tight ends behind Kittle. He's their blocking tight end. The other guy that they have on the practice squad, who's pretty good, that they got from Tampa Bay, he's more of a receiving threat. So he's more of a guy that would replace. I'm blanking on his name right now. Ross Dwelley. How can I forget Ross Dwelley? He's the great one, the best tight end on the team.
So Persist Bro says, when will the 49ers give up on Jalen Hurd?
Next year.
So Notorious GRE says, how many touchdowns did Juwan Jennings score this season?
Let's go with 3. He's got 1, and let's say he's probably going to get 2 more over the next 15 games.
So Persist Bro says, I wanted the 49ers originally to draft Creed Humphrey in round 2. I hope Banks will be a good contributor this year.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect to see Banks starting this year unless Daniel Brunskill gets hurt or just really, really falls on his face.
So what
he's not there yet. He's making that transition over. That's one of the things people talk about, the move from one side offense to the other. Go back and listen if you remember what they were saying about the first round draft pick of the Lions and how bad he was playing when he was over on the right side. A lot of that had to do with the fact that he had played it on the left side throughout college, and it was all new to him. And so that transition's a lot tougher than I think we all think.
Why do you say Aaron Banks is not great? I mean, what's your what's your thoughts on why he isn't great?
He's struggling with that transition, especially in pass protection, trying to having to open up and block guys when they try to take the edges on him, meaning instead of rushing straight into him, maybe trying to take a shot at his outside shoulder and run around him, he just can't catch him, and I think some of that has to do with the technique. of switching from the left to the right.
So we have another question from Notorious GB. He says, "Does Jimmy Garoppolo throw over or under 175 yards against the Green Bay Packers?"
Over.
So we have another question coming in from Gavin. He says, "How much did Warner improve from week 1 to week 2?"
Are we talking about Fred Warner?
Fred Warner.
I don't know. I think he played about the same.
So another question I have for you is: George Kittle gonna run for? Is George Kittle gonna rush for over or under 80 yards?
You mean is he going to have over as far over or under 80 yards receiving?
Yeah. How many receiving yards do you think Kittle's gonna have over or under 80 yards?
I would put him. I'm going to say that he's going to go over 80 this week.
Oh. Which 49er player do you think leads the team in sacks?
Nick Bosa. Because he's going to be he's going to be going up against the backups mostly, I think, for Green Bay, and I think he's going to have a big game. And if he can get a sack on Sunday, it'll be the first time that a 49ers had sacks in 3 straight games since Alden Smith did it in 2013.
If you were to put 5 current players on Mount Rushmore, who would they be?
Oh, that's when you got to help me give me a little time to prep for Chardal. If I was going to put 5 current NFL players on Mount Rushmore, I think you definitely have to start with Jimmy Garoppolo because he's probably the greatest quarterback in the NFL right now. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Tom Brady is definitely on there. We're talking about active players, right?
From the 49ers, not from any other teams.
Oh, from 5 49ers right now that we're getting from this team right now that's playing?
Yeah.
Okay. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and did I say George Kittle already? Probably. Trent Williams.
So you have another question from Notorious Jibby. He says, "What's your thoughts of Contavious Street's season so far?"
I think he's been good. You know, he got that sack in week 1. He's a good player when they go into like their heavy duty. We're going to come after you pass rush scheme this week. I would expect to see him in the game quite a bit because outside of DJ Jones, I think he's their best interior pass rusher.
So you have another question from
Persistent. Well, hold on a second. Oh. When I say that, DJ Jones, when you talk about interior pass rushers on the 49ers, and I'm saying he's the best one outside of DJ Jones, that means in terms of their base. Obviously, when they get into their nickel and dime defenses, and Eric Armstead comes inside, he's their best pass rusher. But you're either pairing Armstead up inside in those pass rushing downs with DJ Jones or Contavious Street. That's your best matchup. I like it when you switch it around and make me the little guy. I like that one.
Yeah. So my other question for somebody saying, we already answered that one. Do you guys see the 49ers pursuing a big name free agent by the trade agent like Sanders in 2019?
I don't know of a big name guy that's out there right now that helps them.
Which free agents do you want? Do you really want the 49ers to sign next season?
I'm not sure right now. I'd have to, they're gonna need. I'm just thinking about what they're going to need a safety. So maybe look at safety because that's the one position that I think they might need some help at. But at the same time, their draft picks this year I think are really their guys that are going to be their big additions next year. Because you're not really seeing their draft picks this year. I think a lot of those guys, like I said earlier in the show, were brought on with the expectation that they were going to be developing throughout this year and stepping in next year. And I know, like Gav says, cornerback, but I don't know if Diamador Lenore proves that can be the guy. And Emmanuel Mosley can come in and play like he's expected to play over the next, the rest of this year once he's healthy. They might not need to go out and spend big money on a cornerback. And you got to remember the 49ers salary cap situation is going to be tight to begin with, and they're going to probably save a little bit there by moving on from Garoppolo if that's what they choose to do. They're going to definitely save some money there, and that'll help them out. But they're still going to be tight against the cap.
So Persist Bro says, I believe that Devontae Adams is a free agent next year.
Yeah, but the 49ers are set with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, unless they don't like Ayuk and they decide to move on from Ayuk. I don't see them going out and spending big money for a guy like Adams because that's your third wide receiver, and I just don't see them doing that.
So Notorious GRB says he would rather prefer a cornerback.
Yeah, that's what he's looking at. That was the question I was just answering a minute ago. He's looking for them to bring in a cornerback, and I don't foresee that if Mosley can pan out and Lenore continues to play the way that he's played, I don't see them bringing in a cornerback off of free agency. A big name one.
So Gavin says, is Jimmy G your captain?
Is Jimmy G my captain? Isn't he a captain of the 49ers?
Yeah.
Jim. No, I don't. I'm not sure exactly where he's going with that, but Garoppolo's gonna be starting until he gets hurt, or the Niners are out of it. And then as far as trading 3 firsts for Chardal, I don't know if you can get Chardal for 3 firsts. I think you might need to go, 3 firsts and a couple, maybe a couple seconds in order to be able to pull off that trade.
So they're saying, Chardal, they need to call more plays for you.
Well, they should. That's one of the things that they should definitely do. I think that if they got Chardal, I think what they need to do is they need to get Chardal on the sidelines because I think he could probably help out Shanahan with his play calling during the game.
Hey, this is getting very interesting because they're starting to bring my name into here.
Everybody loves you, Chardal.
What? Why are they bringing my name? They're bringing my name into here. I don't know why.
Because you're the original GOAT.
So they're saying I should play for the 49ers. He says, dial up Chardal, Shanahan.
There you go. That's right. Uh-huh. You got anything else to go, or are we gonna wrap this up?
But it was really nice for you to come on to my channel. I'm honored that I got to this time to talk to you one-on-one.
No, I agree with you. This has been a lot of fun. I haven't seen you on Niner Chatter the last couple of times, so I'm glad that we were able to get on your channel and cut it up for almost an hour. This has been a lot of fun.
So there's a last question that Notorious G asking. He's saying, what position would Chardal play in the 49ers?
Well, that's a silly question, Gab. I think we know that one. Chardal's the quarterback, man. He's got the shades. Look at him right now. He looks like a quarterback with the shades on. He's got the all black. You can tell he's dressed up and looking sharp. He looks like Jimmy G up at the podium, with the jacket on and the finely coiffed hair and everything. That's definitely Chardal's QB material, QB1 material all the way through.
Yeah, but I'm so happy that you were that I was able to hit you up on Twitter and then have you come onto my channel. So I really like this. It was really fun to talk one-on-one with you.
Yeah, it was great. I appreciate you for reaching out, and I'm glad that we were able to make the times work because I know we were kind of struggling to figure out a good time.
Yeah, but it was really great for you to come on, and I hope we can do this some other time.
Yeah, we will. As long as you call in the Niner Chatter, then I'll come on your show. How's that? We make a deal. Yeah. You help me out, I'll help you out.
But I hope you have a great one, Jack. It was really great having you on.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chardal. It's great to be here with you.
I hope you have a great one.
I will. You too.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.